welcome back, everybody. We're glad to be another session here with our online series. Want to introduce Glenn Littman. He is working our series here with the NCAA image likeness. Really a wealth of information. Really has a huge sum of knowledge about what's going on with this, and folks really should be, excited that we have someone like this who's in this industry here with us today. So I will formally hand it over to him, and we can start going here. So I definitely just want to introduce yourself here and just let folks know who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Glenn Littman. I am the Director of Operations for Zorts Sports. For those not familiar with Zorts, we are a sports management solution application. We handle everything for leagues, tournaments, teams, showcases, and camps, as far as everything from eligibility to registration to playoffs, etc. Beyond that, I'm also partners with Sports Recruits. Sports Recruits is a very big high school sports marketing and promotion video media company. As part of that, we also executive produce 2 streamcasts. One called The Show LA, which is a high school football show about high school football in Southern California, that you could find on the Sports Recruits YouTube channel, and also the CIF Southern section this week. It's called the CIF SS This Week. It is the official weekly sports show of the CIF Southern section, which is the largest high school sports governing body in the state of California, comprising over 565 schools. So we just debuted about 4 weeks ago, and without any sports out here in California, it's kind of hard. But one of the things I'm most proud of is back when COVID first started, Aaron Plunkett, who is the founder of Sports Recruits, originally he had founded D1 Bound, which some of you might be familiar with. They sold a lot of merchandise back in the day. They ended up losing their trademark to a gym out in Atlanta, and we. But he's been posting online and promoting high school athletes more so with football than over the last 10 years. He's got over like 18,000 Instagram posts, and I'm mentioning Instagram a lot for a specific reason. He does a lot on Twitter, got about 68,000. We have a big platform. Zorts has over 175,000 registered users that we could reach out to. But when COVID first started, Aaron and I had been talking for a while about, we're already helping high school athletes. How can we really dial in? And with the upcoming changes in the name, image, and likeness program, we decided that we were going to start and take 50 elite high school athletes from around the country, men and women, and work with them on their social media, post through the Sports Recruits platform, tagging them, thereby building up their platform, advising them, all this type of stuff. And within 2 days after launching it, we had 900 applications. We're also on the verge of starting a consulting program. But the reason why this is so important, excuse me, is that, as many of people watching this and as you guys tuning in right now, things are about to change. For years, college athletes have been screaming and yelling about, that they feel that, they are being abused. They are not being compensated by their colleges, by the NCAA, for the use of their name, image, and likeness. Colleges make millions of dollars, NCAA schools, off of their sports programs, specifically more so with football and college basketball, men's basketball, but all sports. And, you can't just separate football. You got to take into account all sports. So these kids have been out there working their butt off. Years, high school, college athletes have been, really, complaining that the colleges, that they are not making any money from the college making millions of dollars off of their name, and their brand. And starting back, I guess we could start at, the beginning. Back in 2004, there was an athlete, Jeremy Bloom, who was recruited by the University of Utah, I believe. He had been in the Olympics. He had done some other stuff. Well, they wouldn't let him compete. So that was one case. Then a guy named Sam Keller sued the NCAA back in 2014. If you all remember, there used to be the EA video game, the NCAA and the year. Well, they were using the likeness of these athletes, elite athletes, who weren't seeing a dime. And he sued. They ended up settling for $40 million, a class action lawsuit. Unfortunately, that ended the NCAA video game, which was a very popular video game. So there was a lot of other things that came up. There was also, there's Donald De La Hoya is a great example. He was a place kicker for the University of Central Florida. He was a big YouTube influencer, runs these cool videos and was getting thousands and thousands of views. Well, the NCAA told him, no, you have to choose between being an influencer and being a kicker. You can't do both. And he quit football because he had a chance to make money. And, like 3-4 years later, he's still making a ton of money as an influencer. So that's where it all, started. And, you've heard about it for years. And, are these kids and, are these athletes employees? Yes, some people will say, well, they get a free education out of it. They get scholarship money, which is true. But you got to understand, like, Ohio State announced that they were going to lose, I believe, $121 million in 2020 because of COVID, and the hit to their sports programs. So, you think about the money and the marketing and everything. There's enough money to satisfy everybody. So what happened was name, image, and likeness. It started in California with LeBron James got involved, and California passed back on September 30th. California of 19. California passed a law stating that starting in 2023, college athletes will be able to benefit off of the use of their name, image, and likeness. Then what happened was that Florida passed a bill, but Florida said, we're going to we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make it effective July 21. Well, then you had Colorado and Illinois get involved. So, there's an issue to that, which I'll get to. But what has happened since then, it is now on Capitol Hill. And they are working on a national bill to come up with rules that will apply across the board to both, all schools, men and women athletes, on the compensation for, on how name, image, and likeness will work. One of the things that they've got to get it done before this summer, which is real important. So, we'll see which way it goes, because one of the things that they don't want to happen is, they need a level playing field recruiting wise. And I know there's talk about Title IX and stuff, and we can talk about that. But what they don't want is for a school in, say, Nebraska, a mid-level school and a used car dealership to contact the family and say, hey, we'll give your kid $100,000 if he commits to the school, and he could be the face of our dealership. So they don't want that to happen. So what they're talking about it in Congress. They will continue to talk about it. I think they will pass something by the spring. The NCAA is spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to lobby as well, because they still want a voice in this, and they still want to kind of have their hand in the pot, because right now, the way that the California and Florida rules are set up is that the schools really aren't involved. That these players will be able to get agents a lot of these schools, have already hired consultants to come in and talk to their student athletes about branding, about their name, image, and likeness. So, how it's going to generally look, we don't know. But I'll get to what we've heard is that they're going to put a media value on each athlete. The media value will mostly be from Instagram. It's not going to be from Twitter. And there's differences between the platforms. There are YouTube influencers, there's TikTok, but Instagram seems to be, the mode of choice as far as marketers and advertisers. So they have, the last figure that was put on was about 80 cents a follower on Instagram. So what's going to happen is the way, it looks like it's set up. Let's step back for a second. This name, image, and likeness thing is great. Maybe I should have opened with this. However, there's thousands of college athletes. The percentage of student athletes, college athletes, who will be able to benefit from branding opportunities or representing brands, whether it's to their community, regionally, or around the country, is probably less than 5%. But what it does is it's going to open up opportunities where athletes will be able to come home during the summer, run a camp. You're a swimmer, you could run a swimming camp. You're, a volleyball player, you can run a volleyball camp. Quarterback can go home and, run a quarterback camp and make, promote it and make money off of it and pocket the money. They'll also be able to make appearances. So there's definitely benefits. The real big money is only going to go to a very small percentage of men and women athletes. And, to me, women athletes, I think, for the purpose of name, image, and likeness, are probably, except for a few male athletes, in a better position overall. And I know this was one of the questions that was going to come up, but, women have an advantage where they can do fashion, they could do makeup, they can do all, workout videos, all sorts of things that are going to be very attractive to marketers. So, you're going to see, I think, the, elite swimmers and softball players, volleyball players really have an opportunity to capitalize and make some good money. On the other side, if the media value is 80 cents a follower, they estimate that Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback from Clemson, that his value this year would have been about $500,000, which is great. I mean, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to take advantage of it. So nobody really knows how it's going to end up playing out, but those are the same, those are some of the things that will be changing and allow, student athletes finally to be compensated for it. How it's going to work, and we'll get to the athlete and the social media and all that stuff in a second. But the last we heard was, a company will approach a school, an athletic department, and say, "Hey, we're interested in a football player." They will be presented with the roster. Here is, here's each player. Here is the value of how much their media, their social media is worth. Then what the company is going to do is they're going to look up the athlete, and they're going to look up the social media platforms of the athlete. They're going to talk to the athlete. And this is where, we get to the importance of building your social media brand as a student athlete while you're in high school. For years, the most important thing for a high-level high school athlete was, number one, your GPA. So you could get the scholarship offers to the schools that you would like to attend. And number two was, your sport and how hard you worked, to get to the top of your game. Well, now the third level is the business side of it. And really, starting in high school, if you're that kind of an athlete, you want to build your brand and start creating a profile of yourself, of a well-rounded student athlete. Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Thomas. Sorry. Okay. You want to, so we've had conversations when we started our brand building program. Before we started it, we had a number of conversations with the NCAA main office in Indianapolis. We talked to multiple schools when we had kids apply who were already committed, because we wanted to make sure we weren't, we didn't want to take any risk in a student's eligibility. The NCAA signed off on it. The only thing the NCAA said to us, because there's no laws yet, was that we couldn't pay the student athletes. They can't promote us, like we can't use them to promote us. And that was really it. Everything else was really, they said they thought it was a great idea. So we launched this program. And as I said, we've got about 900 applications. We had over 50 conversations in filling the program with parents and finding out what was important to them. So, what's going to happen is with your social media profile, it extends beyond sports, and that's what these athletes have to realize. I was in media advertising sales for years, and I interviewed a lot of people over the years, and it's just natural, and I know other people do it too. If you like a candidate, you're going to look, you're going to search them online. One time I liked this candidate and I searched them, and it turned out they were like totally goth, like into, the whole gothic thing. And it didn't stop me from hiring them, but I learned about them. Didn't mean they were a bad person, but it was interesting. But you want to create an overall social media platform. You want to build your followers, and there's different ways to do that. Yes, it's great if you have a platform to promote you, like a Sports Recruits with 211,000 followers, because when they post and they tag the student athlete, immediately people go to that athlete's page and they'll start following him. Doesn't mean they'll stay there. Then the athlete has to, engage. And one of the things we do in our program is we work with the student athlete on what to post, when to post, what not to post. And, and again, we've all witnessed it. Everybody, whoever watches this has witnessed it, has gone on and seen social media handles from kids on Instagram or Twitter. And, if I'm a college coach or I'm a business and I see somebody, a high level athlete with an Instagram handle that says, give me that cash now, or something derogatory or whatever, immediately that turns you off and you're like, no. So we tell these kids now is to, you want to create a well-rounded profile. A lot of kids think it's cool. A lot of high school athletes think it's cool to have 2 posts up. They think that's great. Well, that's not going to help them build their brand. It's not going to help them get attention. So, one great example of that is Bryce Young. He's now a freshman quarterback at Alabama. He was the quarterback from Mater Dei. Last year, when he was a senior in high school, he had 3 Instagram posts up. Now, if you look at his Instagram, at least as of 2 weeks ago, he had over like 90 posts up, like dating back from Pee Wee football. So for an athlete, it's very important. You want to post your sport, of course, but you want to post your family, your friends, doing community service, anything with academics, because you want people to see a well-rounded, good person. Not everybody's going to be cut out for marketing and personality wise. They're going to have a lot of other opportunities. So to create a great brand, and create an overall personality on social media is great, because it'll even help you when you go out into the real world for jobs. So, when you promote yourself, you don't want to, you can oversaturate yourself, but you have to be smart. And, you post a couple of times a week, you mix it up with video and pictures, or, you promote other people. One thing we tell our kids is go live, go on Instagram live and do Instagram face-offs, show play-by-play clips, like a challenge. They have the rap music challenge. Well, you could do it with football. you got to think outside the box and create it, because there's so many people trying to accomplish the same goal. So, um, we just find that, in the 3 months since 4 months now, since we started the program, every month, all of the people in it have have grown their followers, and we get on a call once a month with them and really talk to them about what worked and what didn't work. And, and as an athlete or as a parent, working with your kids on social media, just pay attention. You post a video, videos always attract more attention than pictures do anyway. But see what works, what attracts the most followers, engage, use hashtags, you know, um, tag other people, tag organizations, tag your team, tag the media organizations. You could tag sports recruits. You could tag Zort Sports 247, especially if it's a sports highlight. Get yourself out there and be known, because especially in a lot of states where football is currently not being played, like in California, how do you stay in front? How do how does your name stay out there? So you want to make sure that you take care of yourself and your social media brand. And you don't want to wait till you get to college to take advantage of the name, image, and likeness rules if you have that opportunity. My partner Aaron was on the phone a couple of months ago with a lineman from USC, and they were talking, and the guy said, wow, the guy maybe has 3 posts up, and he's like, well, when January comes, whenever the laws change, I'm going to go crazy and start posting. And Aaron's like, well, if you wait till then, it's too late. Everyone will know why you're doing it. And the reason why you want to start building it up in high school and get as many followers as you can, because the last thing a college coach wants from an incoming freshman, I don't care what sport it is for them to be worried about building their social media platform. So they might get endorsement deals or be able to take advantage of the name, image, and likeness rules, potentially end up on the next NCAA game. So, these kids are brand new. A lot of them are living away from home for the first time. They've got to worry about college classes for the first time. They got to worry about playbooks in their sport. So they don't, they want to start building it even when they're a freshman. We have 3 8th graders in our program, and who we're posting for. So that's where, it's important. So how all this plays out in the long run, we'll see. Again, they've got to do something, because if Congress sits on it and it's left to the states, then it's going to be a mess, because kids are going to go, start choosing to go to schools in states that are, have name, image, and likeness rules, especially, where they can make money, because a lot of these kids want to make money for their families.
So,
Go ahead.
So thank you for that. That you actually answered a few of the questions that I actually had for you with that. So I thank you for that. But I think one of the big questions here is taking the next step here. So once athletes begin to profit from their likeness, is this going to start skewing the lines of the amateur athlete? Are we starting to step towards that? They're no longer amateurs. They're more, more towards stepping away from being amateur. Because obviously with the amateurism and things like that, there's certain things that can and can't happen. But now that, hopefully this, passes and people start getting, revenue from their likeness, is this going to really redefine what amateurism is defined as?
I think it's going to be interesting the way it ultimately plays out. The way it's set up right now is colleges don't have anything to do with these kids. Will be able to, the way it, and again, whether the final version ends up like this, who knows? They will be able to get agents. The school's really only responsibility will be to supply, the roster. And of course, there's going to be college coaches who are going to be all over it to make sure it doesn't interfere. So yeah, ultimately it's going to depend, it change what amateur is. And the definition of amateur, once these kids start getting paid, again, they're not getting paid for their sport. They're getting paid for, their use of their name, image, and likeness. So that might be the caveat where, it won't hinge on the quote unquote amateur status. In high school, I know, players who have done, modeling, and they still play their sport. There's no rules when, as far as that goes. If they were to get paid for playing their sport, then they lose their, their eligibility.
And do you see, because I guess you make that point of they're getting paid for their name, image, and likeness, but won't the universities try to capture some of that payment back themselves, saying that the only reason why you care about their name, image, and likeness is because they're a part of my school and my athletic program?
That's a very valid question too. I think, in the beginning, I don't know, and there's nothing in the rules that that are being written, in the states or federally where it says that. Again, how many years has the NCAA, have the schools benefited from these athletes? So right now, I think they're trying, because they want to avoid the recruiting issues. They want to kind of separate the school from, the athlete, and which is kind of a convoluted line, because the athlete is playing for the school, they're wearing the school's uniform. But I think they're going to try and keep the schools at first out of it as much as possible, because the agent's going to get a fee if, like a Trevor Lawrence or, or DJ, who's now playing for Clemson, or, any of the college basketball players who are lucky enough to be able to benefit from it. I think in the beginning, I don't think there's going to be that issue. I think if all of a sudden there's, I think people are some people are overestimating what's going to happen. Again, it's going to be a very limited, there's only so many brands and so much marketing. And yeah, that's an important age demographic for marketers. But again, there's only so many athletes that will be able to benefit from that. So the rest of the money, if you're a local, like, music shop, guitar shop, and you want to have, like, the girls, cool beach volleyball player come in and sign autographs, and she gets paid for it, that's fine. What's the school going to get out of that? So again, it'll play out in the long run, but right now there is no specific rules where a college would make a percentage of that, because almost like they'd be an agent then.
And then what about, I suppose it would be, as the athletes, search their endeavors, if the school doesn't want them promoting a particular product or with a certain company, maybe there's a licensing issue there. How much control will the school have to say, we don't want you working with them?
I believe, like, if it's a Nike school and then there's an athlete, who was approached by Adidas, I think that'll still come into play. I think there will be certain things that, are off limits, and again, I think, the NCAA will, has their own morals clause and things like that. I don't think you're going to have kids promoting, marijuana shops or alcohol or, beer or things like that. So I think that, that definitely will come into play, because there's no way there's no way the University of Oregon would have one of their players, promote Adidas, right, since they're a Nike school and they're funded by Nike. So I think that they'll be able to impose that kind of, at least that kind of rule on their student athletes, because you want to uphold the moral standards of the school.
So Glenn, one of the questions I have, and I think this is going to be more prevalent as this decision keeps rolling in as the years go on, is that, do you think that this likeness ruling will stop the ball rolling for some type of unionization of athletes or some type of athletic bill of rights, which what they can and can't do, really more towards the union. Because again, as we look at this more and more, as if this passes, okay, now they're going to start getting paid for their likeness and things along those lines. And again, like I stated earlier, this might start to skew the line of amateurism and employee.
Right.
Do you think that this rule will pave the way for these athletes to organize?
My personal opinion is no, only because they're still student athletes. They're still getting scholarship money, or they're attending these schools. I can't see them letting them unionize. Again, if I think the more you keep the name, image, and likeness money separate from the school money, they can get away with that. I think once though, if the lines start blurring, like if the schools were getting a piece of it, like was mentioned before, if that happened, then yeah, I could see that happening, but I don't think that this NCAA, they would fight that tooth and nail because they're still giving these kids, in their minds, a free education. They're giving them a stipend. They get to play their sport. So I don't think that I just can't see it happening. But again, I could be wrong. I don't see that happening short term. I know they talked about doing it. Look, we saw what happened with COVID. With Justin Fields starting a petition for the Big Ten. That didn't help the Big Ten go back and play. So ultimately they're still college kids. They're still student athletes. Yes, they make a ton of money for their universities and in their own right. I can't see, necessarily. And again, do you think, one of the ways to look at it, do you think these guys who play college football at a high level or college basketball or women's basketball, do they care about the golfing team guy, or the tennis guy, so I just can't see a whole union being formed. And again, I'm probably dead wrong, and that'll probably happen, next year. But I just can't see, as long as they keep the separation out, away from the NCAA having a financial interest in the name, image, and likeness.
CJ,
Go ahead.
CJ, do you have anything, Tiffany?
But again, if anybody's interested in finding out more about the name, image, and likeness and what we do, the website is very simple. It's clasports.com. C as in Charlie, L as in Larry, A as in Annie, sports.com, and it's all there's everything about our branding program and also our new consulting program. It's at Sports Recruits is our Instagram, or at Zorts_sports. We have Zortsports.com is our tournament and league management site. So, again, if anybody out there is listening, don't be afraid to reach out, even to info@Zort Sports. They want, to learn a little bit more about their social media and what they should be doing now. We'd be happy to talk to them and advise them. But, again, it's great that this is happening, and when it happens, it'll be great when it happens. However, I don't think it should be overblown, because I do think that it's only, and the general consensus is it's only going to benefit a minority of men and women athletes. They do have to deal with the Title IX situation, where everything's supposed to be equal. But again, if the school is not directly involved, there isn't that, as much pressure for them to do that. And I don't think they're not close to figuring out that part of it yet. I think they're a little preoccupied in Washington. They have discussed it. There have been committee meetings and open floor, and with all the lobbying on both sides. But I still think there's some months away. I think we have to get through, the election and into the spring, and the new Senate and House, and then but again, it's got to be done by July if they don't want havoc to break loose.
Right. And you know how things work. I think Havoc will probably break loose first, and then
Anyway,
they would try to corral it,
yep,
afterwards. But no one believes in
yep,
Havoc. Preventive measures in Havoc.
yep, I totally agree. They'll find it'll be a mess in the beginning, and ultimately it will, settle out. Hopefully they come up with a national plan beforehand, because otherwise you're going to have kids go to like Florida and Florida State and Miami just because they can make money.
Right.
Yep.
Or that could change the balance of the Big Ten if Illinois adopts this over the rest of the Big Ten state schools.
Right. That's why it can't happen.
Right.
You think Ohio State, wants Illinois to get a recruiting advantage? They never could, but hey, their kids are allowed to make money. They just might.
Right. And same with Pennsylvania and Penn State, or Maryland, or University of Maryland, or especially in that New York market with Rutgers.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
New Jersey does it, oh my God, that would be a huge advantage for the state for Rutgers.
Oh my, yeah, no, 100%. So that's why I think there will be a national law of, by the summer, if they can agree on anything in DC, but, we'll see. But yeah, if not, there will be major issues.
Right. God, this you doing this presentation, I have tons of questions, and I know that ultimately, our politicians are going to fill in the blanks. So I just wanted to give you a big shout out for agreeing to come on this platform and be a part of our inaugural All-American Gridiron Online Summit Series. And you definitely have an invitation to come back and do this again. We're all about educating our our future generations when it comes to football, unveiling the curtain of the business of football and everything that goes on that you don't see, that can affect you. So Glenn, once again, thank you. And I know my staff appreciates you and all you do and what you've done here today. So once again, thank you.
No, and I appreciate you asking me. Again, I apologize to everyone for sitting in the passenger seat of my car out at this tournament in Coachella. I was going to go inside the hotel, but they don't even have Wi-Fi in there. So I apologize. Next time, if you have me back, be in a regular, situation. So no, this was great. I love what you guys are doing for these kids and for parents and educating them. So, again, anybody feel free to reach out if anyone has any questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, Glenn.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.